I played tons of NES games and I've covered many topics throughout my career on Twitch, but one of my favorite variations of the 10 games episodes I make involve taking the time to talk about the music we find in games. Music is incredibly important. It's the glue that holds everything else together. Previously, I did an episode talking about the top 10 best NES soundtracks, but this is the other side of that coin, the worst soundtracks on the NES. I hope you brought your brown pants because it's gonna get really shitty in here. I'd say sit back and relax, but that's not gonna happen. As always, it's a massive pet peeve for me when channels talk over the music they're describing, so I'll say my little blurb, then I'll shut up. Sound good? Let's begin. I've tried to play Deadly Towers a handful of times, and each time I make it slightly farther, but I also lose a little bit more of my soul. It's a horrible game, a long maze of bullshit that in no way, shape, or form is remotely fun, at least to me. The composer Yoshinobu Kasakawa really dropped the ball on this one. The overworld music is a migraine in F major, high-pitched beeps clashing with offbeat percussion that never resolves. Every room uses variations of the same metallic screech, as if the composer was punishing you for playing. Irem proved that they could handle sound design later, but here, it's like they hooked up their NES to a smoke detector. Developed by Interplay, interestingly enough, as their first NES endeavor, The Adventures of Rad Gravity is an action-adventure platforming game that features our hero, Rad Gravity, in what many consider to be one of the most innovative games on the platform. The problem is, the music sucks. David Warhol and George Sanger must have been inspired by a fax machine having a coronary, because the whole game's soundtrack consists of detuned chirps and random blips. I'm surprised that I didn't hear one of the two composers say, "No, fuck this shit, I quit, man. Fuck, God, do this game. How do we even compose for it? How do we do this, huh? What are we doing here? Jesus Christ, I'm leaving. No, you can't pay me enough for this shit." Some of you might know this game if you enjoy unlicensed jank. It's known as Colorful Dragon in Asia, but it's known as Tagen Dragon for the North American regions. It's a maze game where you play as a dragon eating other dragons' tails. That's literally it. And I wanted to bring it up because the soundtrack is unfathomably bad. Take a listen to this. Developed by Activision and ported to the NES by none other than Bits Corporation, who apparently took one look at the Ghostbusters license and said, "Yeah, buddy, let's fuck this up." The game itself is already a masterclass in disappointment. Slow driving, awkward trapping, and menus that feel like you're filing paranormal tax returns. But the soundtrack? Yeah, it's haunting, alright. Every single stage opens with that infamous 8-bit Ghostbusters theme, except instead of sounding like Ray Parker Jr., it sounds like someone typed the melody into a microwave keypad. The NES tries so desperately to spit out the tune that half the notes come out flat, and the other half come out like laser tag guns from 1987. I'd say, let's listen, but you already know this. We all do. Developed by Imagineering, a studio that had a magical ability to turn beloved cartoons into interactive disappointment, Rocky and Bullwinkle, or The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends on NES, is exactly what you'd expect from a late-era licensed game. Stiff platforming, weird hitboxes, and levels that feel like they were designed during a lunch break. But the soundtrack? Oh boy! The soundtrack sounds like the composer got the show's budget, not the game. The NES chiptune tries to capture that classical, whimsical J. Ward energy, but instead you get something that resembles carnival music played through a dented funnel. Every track is an off-brand circus march, like someone fed the NES a kazoo and said, "Do your best." The opening tune alone sounds like a marching band falling down a flight of stairs, enthusiastic, loud, and catastrophically uncoordinated. Developed by Beam Software, yeah, the same fucking goons who decided Back to the Future should play like a mall cop simulator, The Hunt for Red October is one of those NES games that make you wonder, who exactly asked for a slow-motion submarine thriller on an 8-bit console? It's clunky, confusing, and feels like it was designed by someone who skimmed the movie novelization during a layover. But the soundtrack, that's where the real Cold War begins. Instead of channeling tense naval atmosphere or shadowy espionage vibes, the composers delivered something that sounds like a Soviet washing machine trying to play Tetris music from inside a steel barrel. Every track is a low-energy dirge made of flat notes and droning pulses, as if the B-chip slipped into a depressive episode halfway through composing. Developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Mindscape, two names that should immediately trigger fight or flight, the Terminator on NES feels like the universe punishing you for wanting an action game based on one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. Everything about the gameplay is slow, stiff, and just miserable. Kyle Reese moves like he's wading through lukewarm oatmeal, and every level looks like the art team was given 12 crayons and a prayer. But the soundtrack? That's where Skynet really won. Instead of gritty mechanical industrial tension, the entire musical identity of the Terminator, the NES version gives you a soundtrack that sounds like someone tried to recreate Brad Feidel's score using a broken doorbell. Every track feels like a malfunctioning speak and spell attempting techno. Developed by T&E Soft and shoved onto the NES like a sickly child being sent to school anyway, Hydlide is one of those historically important games people defend only because they never actually had to play it. Unless you're me. I've actually beaten it, and I actually don't mind it. It goes without saying that the gameplay is sleep paralysis with a sword. The combat feels like bumper cars at 2 frames per second, and the overworld looks like someone drew Hyrule from memory while wearing oven mitts. but if you take the time to learn it, it's honestly worth playing. But the soundtrack is the true boss fight. Hydlide greets you with a title theme so relentlessly cheerful, it feels like it was composed by a sentient xylophone overdosing on optimism. It's a shrill, hyperactive loop that repeats every 10 seconds, hammering your skull with all the subtlety of a dentist drill. The whole thing sounds like the NES woke up in a panic and tried to compose joy. But at the end of the day, it sounds suspiciously similar to the Indiana Jones theme. Makes you wonder if Keiichi Maruyama and Shigeru Tomita sat and watched it the day before working the music for this game. Oh, Active Enterprises, a company that existed solely to prove that quantity can, in fact, be the enemy of quality. Action 52 is the gaming equivalent of a 52-car pileup where every vehicle is on fire and somehow honking at the same time. It's a collection of mini-games that all feel like unfinished high school programming assignments, stitched together with the confidence of a studio that never once tested anything they made. But the soundtrack, that's where sanity goes to die. Every single game, all 52 of them, uses some variation of the same cursed audio energy. Detuned, off rhythm, aggressively chaotic noise. You don't get music. No. You get a barrage of beeps and shrieks that sound like the NES audio chip trying to claw its way out of the cartridge. Developed by Beam Software and published by LJN, a combo so notorious it practically deserves its own warning label, Back to the Future on the NES is one of those games that makes you wonder if anyone involved had actually seen the movie. Instead of time travel adventure, you get Marty McFly jogging down generic streets, dodging bees, brawlers, and inexplicable hula hoopers like he's trapped in a suburban fever dream. But what about the music? Well, Beam Software took The Power of Love, one of the most iconic 80s songs ever written, and somehow converted it into a 4-second NES loop from hell. It doesn't sound like Huey Lewis. It doesn't even sound like music at all. It sounds like someone frantically mashing a broken keypad and calling it a melody. Developed by Capcom, well, not really, Micronix, because Capcom was fucking lazy, the arcade original had simple music, sure, but it also had energy. The NES port, it sounds like the internal workings of a fax machine having a panic attack. Right from the title screen, the music hits you with what can only be described as a Morse code paddle on endless loop. It's an off-key beeping pattern that repeats every couple of seconds, drilling itself in your skull like the world's least patriotic alarm clock. There's no melody, there's kind of rhythm, but it's still just a relentless beep, 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 beep. Fuck. Instead of a heroic dogfighting anthem or some kind of arousing military march, 1942 slaps you with a grating high-pitched loop that sounds like someone tapped a metal fork against a drinking glass for 3 straight minutes. And at one point I used to speedrun this game, so I know for a fact it's gonna be at least 1 hour, 10 seconds of hearing this bullshit. And that's it for today's episode. What did you think of this list? Are there any NES games that have horrible soundtracks to you? Feel free to let the community know in the comment section down below. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're a gathering of video game enthusiasts that love to remember when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, feel free to subscribe. Finally, the single most important thing you could do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly impacts the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.